Take two.
Welcome to the While You Grow podcast with Dr. Courtney Addison and me, Addison Powell, where we will dive into all things pediatrics, occupational therapy, and other important topics around children and development. So, if you are a parent, occupational therapist, student, or just want to learn more about occupational therapy and pediatrics in general, then keep listening. For more information on the podcast and to follow us on social media, take a look in the show notes. Let's get started. All right, welcome to the While You Grow podcast. A little different today. We're on Zoom, and it's just me today, Addison, and our guest speaker today is Tiffany.
Hi everyone.
So Tiffany, if you will, just introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners and explain what you do.
Awesome. Sure. Okay. So I am Tiffany Antonio. I am the owner of Peaceful Partner Nights. And what I do is I partner with families that are going through parenthood. And typically the journey that they're on is usually like they're new parents or they're inexperienced parents, or there's parents that have come across issues. And what I do is I try to provide that confidence and that knowledge that they need to not doubt themselves, and to know that everything's going to be okay. We're taking it one day at a time. We're not perfect, but we're going to try our best.
That's awesome. And so I think on your Facebook page, it was saying that you were a career nanny and a newborn care specialist. Can you explain what that is specifically?
Yes, of course. So a newborn care specialist is an individual who focuses on newborn care. And when we say newborn care, we usually say within the first 3 to 4 months of life. Okay. However, most newborn care specialists, we have broadened that time frame, and we usually focus on within the first year of life, if not further. And what we do is we go in and we educate parents on AAP guidelines for safe sleep, safe eating, what milestones their child should be hitting, and basically anything that we see out of the ordinary, we kind of bring it to their attention. As newborn care specialists, we do not offer medical advice. We leave that up to medical professionals. However, we can say, hey, we've seen this in the past, and these are examples of XYZ. So maybe bring it up to your pediatrician the next time you see them.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah. And the name of your company, right, is Peaceful Partnered Nights. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So how did that come to be? You started the company, correct?
Yes.
So how did it all come to be?
So I chose the name Peaceful Partner Nights is because typically when families hired me when I started off, it was only for nights. And I wanted to find something that was catchy. And a lot of times people have this idea that like, oh, there's going to be someone who comes into my house, or who offers virtual care, and they're just going to tell me to do this. Well, yes, to a degree, that's true. However, I wanted families to know, like, this is a partnership. They're not alone in this journey. I'm right there beside them. When they want to lead, by all means, lead. I'll step back. However, on the flip side of it is that when they're unsure, I don't mind leading. So I wanted them to know in my name that this is a partnership, and really, we can do it at night. However, a lot of times I do get offered daytime positions as well, where I will do like nap training or parent education, or now I offer first aid, CPR, and AED classes through Red Cross for parents that I can do in the home and teach them those skills without them having to go to a facility or another instructor. They can have that one-on-one experience with me.
That's awesome. And so, you're saying that it is a partnership, you and the parents. do you ever have to adapt your style of care to different parenting styles and different family structures?
Yes. So basically, there's a lot of different parenting styles out there. 9 times out of 10, the parents that reach out to me have the same parenting style that I have, which is I'm a mom of a 5-year-old, almost 6-year-old. And from the very beginning, my husband and I were like, okay, we want to find the balance of promoting independence while also making sure that she always feels loved. So I partner with families who have that same mindset. Like, yes, they are precious, precious, precious. They're babies. We want to treat them like they're babies. However, we also want to start providing those skills that let them know, like, if you need us, we're there. But at the same time, if you don't need us, we're going to let you blossom into whoever you're going to be. And it's a great, great mindset. And because that's kind of my philosophy, I get an array of different families. And even with the array of different families, we might start off with a family that says, hey, Tiffany, I want to do this. And by the time we get into it, they're like, actually, maybe I didn't want to do that. And that's fine. Like, that's just a part of the journey. I tell people, it's like, you don't have to be like, hey, I always thought it was going to be like this. Well, it's a lot easier to think that it's going to be like that. But when you're in it and doing it, you might realize, actually, I don't like that as much as I thought I would. And we just adapt, and we teach parents to adapt and be okay with adapting. There's going to be a lot of opinions out there, a lot of people that say, no, you need to do this or you need to do that. But I want parents to realize you can decide. I can educate all day long about things of safety and how to be the best parent you can possibly be. But at the end of the day, it is completely up to you what type of parent you're going to be. And that's okay. So I just want to help families find their voice.
That's amazing. And, talking about a little bit of, you hear this and that and the other, and you don't know what's reliable. What is maybe one myth about newborn care that you wish you could debunk forever?
One myth about newborn care that I wish I could debunk is that sleep training or sleep conditioning is harmful. There is a very negative stigma when someone says, hey, I'm going to start sleep training my child or sleep shaping my child. And everybody's like, oh my God, you're going to let them cry it out? How dare you let them cry it out? They're too little to cry it out. A lot of methods are out there that do not require a lot of crying. But because that's the first thing people think about when they hear sleep shaping, people are scared to say, I need help. I want to have a better schedule for my child. I want my child to be well rested. I want to be well rested so I can be the best parent I can be for my child. So they just instead struggle. Like they struggle until their child just hopefully gets it, or maybe they'll go to their pediatrician and they'll say, this is what's happening. Any advice? And typically pediatricians will say, it's time to sleep train. But they're scared to share that information with other people because there's just such a negative stigma. So I want people to realize that if you hear someone say that they're sleep training or sleep shaping their child, it can mean an array of things. As a newborn care specialist, there are tons of kids, tons of infants that I start with from the day they come home from the hospital or the day that I get there, because some of my parents just had to do home births. And from that very first day, we start sleep shaping. And they're like, okay, so what does that mean? That means we're actually incorporating healthy sleeping habits. So you hear people say about the ABCs of sleep. So alone, back, and crib. So we want to make sure that their child is in a safe sleeping place alone, on their back, and in their crib. We know from many studies that if people follow these simple requests, that your child is safer in their own sleeping environment, and we don't have those accidents of I fell asleep with my child in my hands and they stop breathing or things like that. Like we try our best to keep our children safe, and when we're tired, sometimes we forget about that safety. And that's human. That's just a part of human nature. However, if we can just get back to the basics of being okay with asking for help without feeling judgment, then I think we can really, really set other families and other parents up for success. So if you hear someone say, I'm going to sleep train my child or sleep shake my child, like, great, that's awesome. I'm glad that you're doing what's best for your family. Instead of being like, don't do that. Let's just try to be less judgmental.
Yeah.
Way they're open to wanting help and seeking advice.
That's amazing. And I guess, I feel like you've kind of already answered this question, but, there are obviously maybe some best practices, but like you said, it's not black and white. There is an in between, and you pick up and you do things, and probably what you tell all families is do like what you literally just said, do what's best for your family. And
yes.
You also talked about, that sleep training and building those routine and habits. Are there other routine and habits that you recommend to families as soon as they get their newborn home? Any helpful routines or habits that you think are helpful for families with newborns?
Yes. So another habit and routine that I would suggest parents to do is get yourself a notebook or get yourself an app that will allow you to track data. Your child is not a statistic. They're not just data. However, it does give you insight as well as your pediatrician insight to what's going on from a day-to-day basis. So the things we want to track is what time did he or she wake up? How much did they eat? And that's hard to tell, if you're breastfeeding. So you just say they breastfed for X amount of minutes. We just don't know how much babies that breastfeed get unless we do weighted feeds. And that's a whole nother topic that we would be here all day talking about. just say like, hey, he or she breastfed for X amount of minutes on the left breast or on the right breast, and that's fine. And then we want to do like how many wet diapers, how many dirty diapers, and what time did those occur. And what you'll realize is that after a while, your child will show you that they are having and starting to make their own patterns. And from those patterns, we can say, hey, we can change this or we can build upon this. And that's really, really cool and insightful, especially when you can go to the pediatrician and say, this is what's happening. What do you think? Or you can reach out to a newborn care specialist like myself, and you can say, my child is sleeping this time, and they're eating this amount of food. However, we're running into this problem or this problem. And I could typically look at a log and pinpoint where those changes need to be, which is why I think if more parents do make logs, it'd be a lot easier. So yes, I would say definitely make a log, definitely kind of decide what type of parent you want to be, and everything else kind of comes naturally, I feel like.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, you provide obviously this in-home service and care. Do you also provide your families with other tools and resources that maybe you have made yourself, or other sources that are also very good, reliable sources for families to get information from?
Yes, of course. So I provide information to my families myself. A lot of the families I work with, I set them up for the first year of life. I want them to know what to do if they see sleep regressions. I want them to know what milestones they should be looking for. And I want to teach them when to worry and when to say, hey, okay, my child is a little behind, but they're going to get there. And the flip side of that is, because I've been doing this so long, I've also built a great network of men and women that have their own specialties that I get to refer out if I run into those things and I'm like, sorry, outside of my field of expertise. However, I do have someone that can help you.
Yeah.
So I believe that craniosacral therapists, speech therapists, occupational therapists, even just doing like prenatal yoga, chiropractic work, like there's tons of different resources that I can provide for parents if they need it.
That's awesome. And you went right into it. So I honestly don't even know I don't know how much you were told, but this podcast is I started it with my professor, and I'm an occupational therapy student at Presbyterian College. And so that was kind of leading into my next question, like how often do you interact with other like therapy services like OT, speech, and physical therapy?
I interact with them quite a bit. It really just depends on the child and the age of the child. Because a lot of my contracts are short-term contracts, depending on when the parent reaches out to me, I may only get to interact with the most I would say I would interact is like occupational therapists, craniosacral therapists, and chiropractors.
Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think of anything else that would be, if any other advice that you have for parents that have a newborn and I'll also put your contact information as long as you allow. That way, if we have any listeners that want to come to you for help, they can do that. But yeah, any other advice that you would want to give to parents?
Of course. So my main advice I give to all parents is basically, if you think you're going to be the perfect family and perfect parent, just don't think it. You're going to stress yourself out thinking that you have to do everything perfect. I can assure you, your parents or grandparents or adoptive parents or caregivers, they did not do everything perfect. And guess what? You're here and now you've started your own family.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I want people to realize we're not meant to be perfect humans. We're meant to be loving and caring humans and try our best. So my main advice is to enjoy it. Enjoy those, sorry, I'll do better next time moments. And just really bask in this new journey and build your village. There's tons of people out there that want to help you, who care about you, who's rooting for you. So reach out and ask for help if you need it. And if you don't need it, don't be afraid to tell people, thanks, but no thanks. I got this. And that's totally fine as well. Just learn how to find your voice. And I think you're going to do great. You've already started the process, so you're going to be great at this.
That's awesome. That is absolute beautiful advice, and I will definitely take it. I don't have kids of my own right now, but I definitely will take that with me when I do start having children. But yeah, I just want to thank you again so much for coming on here and speaking with me. And I guess we'll close out unless you have anything else you want our listeners to know.
No, I think that's all.
All right. Well, again, Tiffany, thank you so much. I've enjoyed having you on the podcast, and it was a little different today because, like I said, I'm by myself. So this is the first time I've done it by myself. So hopefully it wasn't too bad, but
you did great. You did great.
You did as well. You have an amazing podcast voice. You give amazing advice for parents, and it's something that's definitely needed and a good resource for parents, especially everywhere. But yes. All right. So thank you and bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the While You Grow podcast. If you learned something on this episode, please like, share, and comment. Join us next time as we dive into all things pediatrics, occupational therapy, and other important topics around children and development.